Hey, thanks for joining me. So today I want to talk about budget-friendly bushcraft or outdoor knives. And over the past year I've looked at several, but I thought it'd be a good idea to encapsulate that information into one video so you can kind of make some quick comparisons and hear some of the key points, the good and the bad of some of these knives. And you know, if you're looking for something new that's budget-friendly, maybe even a gift for somebody, and you want to make a good choice, this might be helpful. There's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to choosing knives, and things that I like, things that I prefer, maybe a little bit different for you. But in this video you'll be able to kind of see, you know, the comparisons between them and see if this information will be helpful in making a choice. These are knives that are very budget friendly, typically under $25 or 25-ish or under. I know there are knives that I have not included that are more expensive than that. And it's not to say they're not good choices. It's just this video is about knives that you can buy that are very, very budget friendly. In these days of high inflation and high prices, finding a good deal on something that's a good, reliable knife, I think is a great thing to find. So let's put some of these knives on the bench. We'll take a look at them and see what you think. Before we do, if you would, please click on the like and subscribe buttons, and let's take a look. Alrighty, let's get started here. Let's start off with something from Mora. This is actually one of my favorites, and while it's not necessarily the best value, maybe some may find it is, I don't know, there's just something about it I really like. So this is the Mora 510. It's not a very expensive knife, the Mora 510. I saw them on Blade HQ for like $13.99. On Amazon they're about $18. Of course on Blade HQ you're going to pay shipping, so I think their shipping is about $5 or $6, something like that. So the 510 is just very plain. It's got a kind of a hardish plastic handle, but it's nicely shaped. And a lot of these knives are Scandinavian style designs, so they have this typical design on the pommel, and some will have finger guards, but this is just a very common shape in general you see on these knives. But this carbon steel, it's Scandi grind. One of the things that I like, and this is maybe something that other people don't, I like a knife that doesn't have as much upsweep on the edge. I like one that's, you know, one that has a lot of upsweep. To me it makes the tip harder to use. And that's one of the reasons I like this, that the amount of upsweep is kind of moderate. And very basic knife, very handy size. It's not one that you would, you know, use to hammer through or baton through heavy wood, but it's just a good general use outdoor knife. It is carbon steel, so you gotta make sure you clean it and oil it. Okay, another one from Mora. This is the Pro S, and the Pro S is this is actually my wife's. It goes in one of her packs, but it's stainless steel, and Mora uses a Sandvik 12C27 stainless steel that is a well-known blade steel. They harden it, I think, to around 55, 56 Rockwell, so it's not super hard, but they're known for holding a good edge, and it's got a really good sheath. This is one of those that you can stack the sheaths one on top of the other using this little latch here. You can actually hook two of these together if you want to layer them. Not sure why. I think some workmen in Sweden do that, but I don't know that too many outdoor people would, though they might. Got a nice sheath, well made. Most of the Mora sheaths are pretty well thought out, and so it's a real handy knife. Notice it's a broader blade, got more upsweep. But it's just a real handy knife. I didn't actually look this one up. I think these are around $18, $19 on Amazon last I looked. Still very affordable. Now, the last one from Mora, actually, you're probably familiar with. Mora is probably their most popular knife. So the Mora Companion. And the Mora Companion is made, and that's why I have several of them here, is made in a lot of configurations. This one is the standard weight blade. It's carbon steel. And again, this knife is super popular from Mora. It got a rubber overmold on the grip. The grip is super comfortable. You can get a good purchase on it. The great blade design, I think. It's not too broad, not too much upsweep. You know, with the drop point that it has here, you get, you know, a point without having to sweep upward quite as far. I don't know, it's just a great design. These are super popular, and because they're so popular, the price on them is really good. You can get these for the stainless steel versions around $15, $16 on Amazon. The carbon steel versions are like $15. And these are just so popular. Sheath is really nice. Got a little ramp here to push on to pop the knife out of the sheath, which is very handy. And we'll see that on another knife that doesn't have one of these. Got a drain hole in it. It has a hook on it. You know, you can hook it on your belt. You can hook it over a button. It's just a well thought out sheath that's very functional. And these are just super popular. This is a stainless version of the same knife. Again, same grip, and it's kind of weird I have all of these in the same green, but these are available in a lot of different colors. There's also a serrated version of this. There's one that has a fire steel kind of built into the handle. There's just a lot of versions of the Companion. It's just a great knife. This one is the heavy duty, and the grip on the heavy duty is a little bit fatter. The blade, of course, as you can see, is heavier. Same kind of profile, but it's just a little more heavy duty overall. These are pretty popular with the bushcraft crowd because you can baton this through wood pretty easily, and it's not going to you know, fail on you very easily. If you put a magnet on one of these, the tang seems to end about right here. So it's not a full tang, and this is a stick tang that goes through here. The handle is molded over. But it stops way back here. So these seem to hold up really well to a fair amount of abuse. Yeah, you can break it if you just abuse it enough, but I think you'd have to abuse a knife like this a lot to get it to fail, especially the heavy-duty version. If you're wanting something that's just a little bit more robust, these the heavy-duty versions are a little bit more expensive. They kind of run between $21 and $25 depending on where you're getting it from, Amazon or Blade HQ, and you know, the various sellers that are online. But still very affordable, and same kind of sheath, really well done. So the heavy-duty. If you're looking for something that's just a bit more robust, that's probably your choice. Now, we get on to some other choices. The next one I'm going to look at is a cold steel fin hawk. And this is a neat knife. The one thing I really have a gripe about is that the knife is really hard to get out of the sheath. And there's no thumb ramp on here. So I think you could probably heat this up and take something around and kind of maybe make a shelf there, pull out. But it's the sheath's pretty good otherwise. You know, it's got a drain hole. It's got a hook here so it stays on your belt. It's got the same buttonhole thing. But I just wish they had made the sheath a little. I mean, it's not going to fall out ever, you know, but getting it out, if you just had this hook on your belt, you just tried to yank it out, it'd probably pop off your belt. I don't know. It's a little hard to get it out. I wish they'd work on that. Blade profile is quite different on the fin hawk. You know, it's relatively broad, got a fair amount of upsweep. The grip on these is really noteworthy in that it's kind of a concave area here. It's kind of dished in, and it's rubber overmold, and it's very grippy. It's got a great feel to it. Your fingers, as you wrap around, kind of go into that indentation or that concave area, and it's if you look on Cold Steel's website, they talk about the grip on this was something they spent quite a bit of engineering time on. It's very comfortable, very functional, typical design. Also has a lanyard hole, which is kind of cool. Most of the others don't have that, and so it is a great knife. If you like something with a bit more upsweep, then you know, this is probably a good choice. Now, where the Moras use the 12C27 on their stainless steel, and their carbon steel on the Moras is, they don't state exactly what it is, but it's a 1% carbon steel, so it's probably similar to a 1095 steel that's hardened to, I think, Rockwell 56 to 58. This is 4116, Krupp 4116 steel, and you can actually see it says German. I can get it to focus here. German 4116, and these are made in Taiwan. So the 4116 is a, and this is the 4116 that Cold Steel uses. They do a cryo quench on it, so it's kind of like maybe Buck's heat treating of their 420HC that exceeds what you'd normally expect from that steel. I think the same thing is true of 4116 done by Cold Steel. It's only got about 0.5% carbon and 14% chromium. You got to remember, on stainless steel, it's not just the carbon that creates hardness, but also the chromium. And between those two, the blade steel holds up fairly well. It performs decently. No, it's not a super steel. Yes, you're going to have to sharpen it a bit more, but this holds an edge well, and it has performed well. If you like a little bit more upsweep, you know, especially if you're skinning game, then the upsweep is real handy. I don't skin a whole lot of game these days, but if you're skinning game, then this curve is nice. So it's a well thought out knife. I know Cold Steel put a lot of engineering time into it. I wish they had given us a thumb ramp here and made the sheath just a little less hard to pull the knife out. That's my only complaint on this. Otherwise, it's a great knife, and they're very affordable. The fin hawk you can get for about $24.95 or $25 roughly on Amazon, and it's a well thought out knife. Now, another one you don't see nearly as often, though these have some popularity, is the Marttiini Condor Timberjack. Now, the Martini Condor Timberjack is carbon steel made by Martini, and you may be familiar with Martini knives because they have made the Rapala fillet knives forever. And Martini knives, you know, they're known for that, but outside that, a lot of people don't even know they're around. But it's a great little knife. It's a rubber overmold over a plastic handle, so it's got a good grip on it. It's got some ribbing here at the top that kind of acts like jimping, which is pretty good. This one, unlike most of these knives, this one actually, this was fine blanked out or stamped out using a die, and so the edge here is kind of rolled, but this edge is kind of sharp. So you could, if you're right-handed, you flip this over, you could use this to scrape a fire steel quite effectively. If you're left-handed, not so much. But you know, if you're right-handed, this will actually strike sparks in a fire steel where most of the others won't. Now, easy to take any of these knives and take a file and draw file the top of it to make a sharp edge. So that's not a big deal, but it, you know, on some of these other knives like the Companion, so the other Moras and the Fin Hawk, you would have to file the top edge to get it to strike spark, if that's important to you. Again, the same typical Scandinavian kind of handle design with that kind of pommel, but it's a very useful design. This has a bit of a finger guard, and these are not, I mean, this is kind of stated in some advertising that this is a coated blade, but what I really believe is that this blade, when they heat treated these, this is the scale you get from heat treating, and that scale will help prevent rust if you leave it there. So what they've done is, you know, after the final heat treat, they've cut and ground the edge to make it sharp, and they've left this on here. So it's not, I think, what you'd call a coated blade. It wasn't intentionally coated. This is just the heat treat scale. That's what I believe anyway. But again, very functional knife. These are not terribly expensive either. Blade HQ has them for like $17. Amazon, they're like $21. Carbon steel, they're a good knife. The Martini uses an X75 CR1 steel, which they harden to 55 to 57 on the Rockwell. That steel has like 0.7 to 0.8% carbon. So it's not quite as high a carbon as, say, 1095, but it'd probably be akin to something like SK5. And it's a good steel, and it holds an edge well. It's you know, with a slightly lower hardness, you're less likely maybe to get chipping or to break a tip off if you get into something. But it may require sharpening a little bit more frequently. But still, a great knife. Martini makes these. They also make versions of this knife, if you go to Martini's website, that have beautiful birch handles, and they're obviously more expensive, but every time I look at their website, I just lust after some of their knives. They're so pretty. This is their kind of low-end, affordable budget knife, but still very functional, very usable. The sheath, however, not quite as well thought out. It's got this belt loop thing here that's kind of, I don't know. I'm thinking that's not going to last forever. Now, you can buy a version of this with a leather sheath, and it's a little bit more expensive. I think if I were to order another one of these, I probably would go ahead and spend a few extra dollars and get the leather sheath. This sheath is just not well thought out. There's no drain hole. This this thing is kind of, I don't know, kind of iffy. Now, if you're just going to keep the knife in a pack, maybe it doesn't matter. The knife stays in, you know, it doesn't rattle. It's okay in that regard. It's just this belt loop thing. Maybe cutting this off and putting a dangler loop on here or something would be okay, but drilling a drain hole in it. But yeah, they could have given a little more thought to the sheath. But like I say, you can get a leather version sheath. Okay, the last one on my choice here is this Hultafors HVK Craftsman. Now, Hultafors makes another knife that's an outdoor knife. It's the OK1 or OK4. And they're relatively similar looking. Blade's a little bit longer, but a lot of the specs otherwise are similar. This is a carbon steel. The Hultafors website says they use a Japanese steel, and they don't really specify anything beyond that. If you do some, when I did the review on this knife, I did some digging around and came up with a couple of references to SK5 on these. So can't say definitively, but there's a good chance that these are SK5, which is, it's a decent steel. SK5 has 0.8 to 0.9% carbon, and they do state that these are hardened to Rockwell 58 to 60, which is a good hardness level. When I got this, it was not sharp. I had to put it on a stone to sharpen it, a couple stones to sharpen it. You can see there are some kind of machine marks in the metal from where it was, edge was ground, and the finish on it is kind of a brushed finish. It's not polished. This is almost sharp enough to, again, it was fine blanked. It's rolled on this side, sharp on this edge. You almost could strike a spark with that. I think if you were to take a file to it in a couple seconds, you could have it where it would do that. This is just a hard plastic handle, but it's nicely shaped. It's very comfortable. A little bit longer than some of the other knife handles, which is kind of interesting. A lot of workmen or craftsmen in the Scandinavian countries, the carpenters and craftsmen on construction sites and stuff actually carry belt knives, or used to. I don't know if they do as much now, but they used to carry belt knives, and these were real popular because they were inexpensive, and you know, you could kind of use it and abuse it, and when you were done, if you didn't think it was savable, you could just chuck it and go buy another one. These are like $15 on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. Decent materials though, and you know, it's a well constructed knife. Now the sheath is a little bit interesting. It does have a drain hole. Typical plastic sheath. It does have a thumb ramp, which is kind of nice. This is kind of interesting though. It has a belt loop that goes through here, and this unsnaps. You can push in these two little tabs, and you can pop out that flap on the front. If I can get it to come out. There we go. So you could potentially slide this under a belt and fold it over and then snap it on without having to undo the belt. And it also has this buttonhole thing here. If you have clothing that has, you know, like the large metal buttons, you can snap it over a button. These are, again, very popular with workmen, and this is why this one's called a Craftsman. Very basic knife, but you know, there's some folks in the bushcraft community that like them and use them. I, to be honest, haven't looked to see how far this looks like. It's about right there is about where the tang ends on it. And it, you know, like I said, inexpensive. They seem to be pretty robust and, you know, a pretty good value. So I would have to say, if I were going to choose one knife out of all these, and this is just my preference, yours could be different obviously, I would probably go with one of the Mora Companion versions. Either the standard weight or the heavy duty. Probably if I'm doing a lot of bushcrafting where I'm going to be batoning a lot, I think the heavy duty would be a better choice. Just a little bit more robust. You know, to take that kind of abuse a little bit better. Again, the tang on these goes a good part of the way through, and I think these will hold up to a fair amount of abuse. Now, price-wise, you know, you can get the standard Companion for like the same $15 you would pay for the Hultafors, and I think it's just a superior knife. Better grip, better, you know, materials on the blade, more options in terms of color and, you know, stainless or carbon, and, you know, $15 on the heavy duty version. You're looking at $21 to $25, and you know, there you're in the price range of the Martini Condor or the Finhawk. And again, I think this knife is, again, in my opinion, for my uses, I think it would be superior. So of these, I think if I were to just look at all these and say, what do I want to use, it'd probably be one of the Companions. Now, you might have a different choice. You might like the upsweep of the blade, you know, maybe the Finhawk has. Maybe that design more suits you. Maybe there's some other features of other knives that you would prefer. For me, I think the Companion's probably my favorite. Well, there you have it. I hope the seeing all these different knives was helpful to you to kind of make some comparisons. There's some really great choices out there, and like I said, this is very subjective. Things that I like, you might find a different like for. You might not like the things I like. You might agree with me. Either way, hopefully this information's been helpful in making some choices. I always appreciate it if you leave me a comment if you have any thoughts or questions. And as always, thanks for watching.